We're going to look at it. So foul there on Indiana, on hole there. But then that is a technical.
That is a technical. Dead ball, contact technical.
It's a little surprising to see so many of these happen in one game because...
Oh, and I don't like the way Lexie held.
Bold moment incoming. If you love comeback stories with heart, grit, and a little poetic justice, you're in the right place. Today, we break down how Indiana closed the season with authority and how one crossover became a message to the entire league. Tap subscribe and the bell so you never miss the next breakdown. Ready to see how a battled roster found a way to punch above its weight and set the tone for the playoffs? Let's dive in.
Kayla McBride this time around? Last time these two shared the court, McBride's elbow smashed Hull in the face, and the refs somehow penalized Hull.
Final score, Fever 83, Lynx 72. Indiana ends the regular season with an exclamation point. Fever have won 3 in a row as they enter the playoffs.
Shock, memory, and a scoreboard that finally told the truth. The last Fever Lynx meeting left Indiana fuming after Kayla McBride's flying elbow smashed into Lexie Hull's face, and unbelievably, the whistle landed on Hull. That clip lived rent-free in every Fever huddle. In the rematch, Indiana wrote the correction in bold. Fever 83, Lynx 72, a conviction win. Hull didn't chase chaos or settle for a push. She answered with poise, footwork, and timing that made the building hold its breath. Her moment wasn't petty revenge. It was control reclaimed, a visual reset that said Indiana would set the temperature. The energy flipped, the narrative flipped, and Minnesota felt it early. And yet, that viral highlight was only the doorway. The real story was how the Fever built a platform sturdy enough to let it happen. Next, the attrition that forced that steal. Because nothing here was accidental. It was built, rep by rep, as frustration hardened into habits and memory into fuel.
I know a lot of people will talk about Nafisa not playing, but I think they're really good without her. You know, they're just a really great basketball team. So I think it was a big win for us because they set the bar high standard-wise. We know what to expect when it comes to Minnesota Lynx, and so I think going into the playoffs, it was big for us because being able to know guarding Courtney Williams, knowing that her thing is a pull-up, knowing that now instead of not knowing that, it's big for us because we give ourselves a chance, and if they are the standard, we get to see where we are.
Is the brutal truth of Indiana's year. The rotation evaporated in waves. Caitlin Clark's groin kept her out. Sophie Cunningham's MCL tore, Sydney Colson's ACL went, Kayla Pointer's knee balked, Ari McDonald fractured a foot. That list alone could start for some teams, yet it sat in hoodies and sneakers while the schedule kept sprinting. Depth charts became puzzles, and every night someone learned a new job. Spacing was reimagined, matchups reassigned, tempo recalibrated. The Fever did not mope. They engineered workarounds. Sets leaned into quick hitters, second side actions, and early seals for Boston. Defensively, they traded glamour for grit, prioritizing the glass over the box score. Short-handed life exposes teams. This one learned to breathe through it. The lesson was harsh and simple. Survive contact, win the next rebound, and own the next cut. When your roster thins, your margins widen, so discipline replaces flash. Indiana embraced that math and it traveled.
Yeah, one of the things that I've been impressed with these guys since even the offseason, really, the ones that I was able to work out with in the offseason, is how hard they work. It's there's a work ethic and there's a work style. And to approach everything in the same way, to be so energetic, enthusiastic, and dedicated every day. And I felt that way in training camp too. There weren't any days where I had to bring that out of them. So I think it's the nature of the women that we brought into this organization to continue to just bust their butts and play hard.
Standards sharpened contenders, and Minnesota sets them. Indiana knew it and treated the rematch like a midterm you pass by preparation, not noise. The scout was clear. Sit on Courtney Williams' pull-up lanes, tag cutters early, and remove the easy comfort catches that power their half-court. On offense, simplify. Punch gaps, cut behind ball pressure, and use Boston as a release valve when possessions stall. That approach is not glamorous, but it scales under stress. It's why a thin roster can still feel organized while a deeper team chases ghosts. The Fever entered with humility and nerve, using the Lynx as a measuring stick rather than a wall. Play by play, they erased habits and replaced them with effort. Preparation plants confidence, and confidence changes pace. When you know a standard, you borrow it for a night. Clean spacing, decisive closeouts, smart traps. Next up, the news that could have broken them.
Have flatlined.
You know, kind of all the other things like offensive rebounding that she can do.
Knocked away. Boston comes up with a steal. Here is Mitchell veering through the paint and lays it in.
She's so quick, and especially when she gets out in the open floor, you'll see her coming down. The quick left to right crossover just gets by. I thought she was sprinting. I didn't think she was lumbering.
It was a lumber sprint.
Up for the big girl.
Mitchell like a blur. That's a...
Then came the gut punch. Caitlin Clark's season was ruled over, not paused. No more hopeful updates. No quick returns. Just a press note and an empty jersey on game night. For a franchise rediscovering relevance, that loss hits harder than a box score ever shows. Clark is energy and attention, the battery that kept arenas humming. Remove that, and most teams shrink. Indiana refused. The mood shifted from dependence to accountability. Huddles got louder. Roles grew teeth. Fans from Indianapolis to Iowa still packed seats and noise, and the roster took that energy seriously. Clark stayed present, reading coverages from the bench, signaling timeouts. Her voice carried without the jersey. The message underneath was blunt and useful. If the heartbeat rests, the body must learn a new rhythm. Indiana did. That is why this win felt bigger than seeding math. It broadcast that belief was now distributed across the roster, and that anyone could carry the drum for a night.
Only 8 teams have ever done that. 7 of them went on to win the title. As Boston gets free and lays it in.
She will be on my first team.
Boston in the paint, sneaks through 2 and lays it in.
Fever done with the MVP, okay? Bow, bow, bow! Hell yeah. You already know what it is. Dubs in the chat, you already know what it is. You already know what it is. Let's go to the playoffs with some momentum, baby.
Next, the scorer who seized that challenge. Enter Kelsey Mitchell, not as a spot scorer, but as the fulcrum. She absorbed usage, initiated pace, and kept advantage alive when defenses loaded up. 20-plus a night while handling the ball is not a heater. It's stewardship. She layered hesitation bursts with straight-line drives, dragged help into the paint, and popped out for rhythm threes when tags cheated. When teams iced ball screens, she snaked and probed. When they blitzed, she hit the pocket and relocated. The most telling part wasn't just the points. It was the timing. Answers when droughts loomed. Indiana needed a closer and a compass. She wore both. Opponents planned to shrink the floor. She widened it instead, creating slot cuts and skip lanes. Her pace control showed after makes. She hunted early edges, flipped sides before defenses set, and forced coverage to declare. That rhythm turned late clock stress into early clock clarity. Next, the anchor on the glass.
Before the playoffs start Sunday tonight for the Fever as they host the WNBA's best team in 2025, the Minnesota Lynx. It's regular season game 44 of 44.
What makes it even more striking is where the Fever were just a few weeks.
Then the help wore number 7. Aaliyah Boston turned reliability into a weapon. 15 steady points, hard rebounding, and perfect timing on seals made every possession sturdier than the last. Over the stretch, she vacuumed boards at a record clip, setting a new franchise single-season mark and choking off second chances. That is oxygen for a thin roster. Defensively, she walled drivers, showed bodies to post scorers, and made shooters think twice about drifting into her space. Offensively, she punished switches, ducked in hard, and provided bailout touches when sets stalled. Those simple, repeatable wins prevented the gusts that usually flip games. Put simply, Boston removed volatility. Mitchell could hunt edges because Boston guarded the baseline of the night. On misses, she turned boards into instant outlets, pace without panic. That rhythm drained Minnesota's patience and let Indiana choose tempo. Next, the mindset shift.
It'll be Alana Smith jumping it up against Aaliyah Boston. The ball is tipped, and it's time to hoop it, Indy. Powers up top, tees it up, three. It's good! Energy!
But 10 Powers, you bet! Back nothing run to Indiana, and Minnesota wants a timeout. Start this game first.
The Fever double up the Lynx in the first quarter.
Here's where the psyche flipped from survival to statement. Hardship signings became solutions, not stopgaps. Bench players seized minutes with swagger, feck and trust that showed up in closing lineups. The frustration over whistles and rotating lineups could have fractured belief. Instead, it forged togetherness. 5 connected closeouts, second efforts on 50-50 balls, and screens that actually freed the ball. The offense trimmed fat and emphasized purpose. The defense cut the cute stuff and valued bodies on the glass. It raised Indiana's floor even as star power fell. When your habits are simple and repeatable, pressure becomes a test you expect to pass. With that foundation poured, the Fever welcomed the top seed without flinching. Film showed it. Tighter spacing, quicker second-side actions, fewer wasted touches. Then the wins confirmed it, with roll clarity you could see, and huddles that solve problems, not named them.
It's Indiana 28, Minnesota 14.
Indiana is back threes from aerial power. 3-point range. Mitchell connects on a 3. Sims leaning jumper is good. 4 for 4 from Will to it for the first half. Indiana shoots 58% from the floor.
Driving left, puts it in off the backboard. Kelsey drives.
Mitchell open 3 is good. You can. Kelsey Mitchell is a hooper.
Passes Dantas left corner 3. Bullseye. Shot block. Boston left block makes it in.
Minnesota arrived wearing the league's gold standard tag, and Indiana met them with purpose. The bracket math was plain. Climb a seed, improve matchups, and announce you belong beyond a cameo. Seeding is not vanity. It's the path you must walk. A higher line means better angles, shorter storms, and the chance to dictate style. To get there, the Fever had to attack rhythm early, build scoreboard pressure, and trade comfort shots for contested ones. That is a Finro plan unless your habits hold. Indiana's did. They approached possession 1 like a statement and possession 2 like proof. When you turn a favorite's early possessions into questions, you change the night's pulse. That is exactly what happened here. And it started before the first timeout. Indiana didn't chase knockouts. They stacked edges. Tip, glass, loose balls. 3 small wins make 1 big one, and Minnesota felt spacing shrink.
Fever done with the MVP, okay? Bow, bow, bow! Hell yeah. You already know what it is. Dubs in the chat, you already know what it is. You already know what it is. Let's go to the playoffs with some momentum, baby.
Context matters. Not long before this win, the Fever had dropped 4 of 5, and the outside noise grew familiar. Momentum gone, story fading. Seasons often stall right there. Indiana refused. They retooled on the fly and stacked 3 straight grinders, each a different solution to the same problem: how to control pace without their spark. The Minnesota game crowned that pivot because of who stood across. Beating a bottom feeder proves effort. Beating the Lynx proves structure. The Fever rediscovered identity in screening angles that stuck, second-side touches that forced help, and disciplined digs that turned post-ups into kickouts. Every possession looked intentional rather than improvised, and intention under pressure is a weapon. That reframe set up the opening avalanche. It also clarified roles: who cuts, who lifts, who owns late clock. Clarity beats talent gaps when games tighten. By the tip, they were ready to dictate. Next, the first punch.
Just weeks earlier, She'd been on the receiving end of Kayla McBride's elbow to the face. Blood on the court, confusion in the arena, and then the unbelievable twist. Refs hit Hull with the technical instead of punishing McBride. The whole scene turned a tough night into an outrageous one. Fans didn't just feel angry for her, they felt insulted on her behalf.
Here's Mitchell. I think that's a 2. Doesn't go. And now it's McBride getting Hull.
Yeah, that one might be a problem.
Indiana just taking shots to the face.
From the tip, Indiana dictated terms. A 10-0 burst forced the first timeout and announced pace control. The Fever shot 58% before halftime. But the real dagger was denial. Cold link shooting met layered contests, and long rebounds turned into clean runouts. Minnesota's perimeter went ice, hitting only 2 for 20 from deep, and every clang felt heavier than the last. Indiana never let tempo drift. They sent 2-on drives by plan, tagged rollers early, and closed under control, so nothing cheap leaked out. Offensively, the balance was surgical. Mitchell's lead guard cadence, Boston's paint security, and timely kickouts to shooters who stepped into rhythm. When a favorite spends the night searching for comfort, the scoreboard stops blinking. That's what happened, and the pressure never exhaled. By halftime, the lead was double digits. It rarely dipped, as Minnesota clanked to 2 for 20 from 3, while Indiana stacked stops, managed possessions, turned misses into easy 2s.
It was a test of character.
Tonight for Indiana, but then Bolton gives it right back, and Howard cashes in.
To perform like this, but they have 5 different players almost at all times who can bring the ball up the floor. Usually 4 or 5 were adept at making shots from deep. I mean, you just saw a big there creating her own look as well from Natasha Howard. Career high in terms of her field goal percentage, and you see her here, the little spin to the middle. That's a tough shot.
Depth wrote the middle chapters. Odyssey Sims signed to plug gaps, dropped 15 assertive points like she had been in the system all year. Then Ariel Powers delivered twin haymakers, back-to-back threes that snapped momentum. The instant Minnesota sniffed a run. Those shots were more than numbers. They were commands that told the building to stand. Around them, Boston kept cashing putbacks. Mitchell buried a rhythm triple, and Natasha Howard's two-way engine patched every seam. The box score reflected it, and so did history. Indiana moved to 24-20, its first winning record since 2015. 9 years of false starts finally gave way to substance. That milestone mattered because it confirmed culture, not coincidence. With the crowd roaring, one scene grabbed the spotlight. It signaled a foundation that did not wobble. Powers owned corners, Sims knifed off handoffs, and Howard switched without surrendering the glass. Those patterns bent Minnesota just in time for a personal moment. And then the clip. Second quarter, Hull at the top against McBride. One hard dribble left, a pocket pause, and McBride lunged into space that wasn't there. Balance vanished, ankles tangled, the arena detonated, and the cameras caught it all as the crossover stamped a memory over an old bruise. Social feeds erupted. Indiana fans called it karma. Neutrals called it comedy. Hull called it basketball. The play was punctuation, but her defense was the paragraph. Trailing guards, denying comfort catches, and turning touches into contested prayers. The symmetry mattered. Weeks after eating an elbow and a baffling tech, she flipped the script on the same opponent. That is redemption, and it traveled into the huddle. Teammates popped up, the building leaned in, and the vibe shifted from payback to proof. Her footwork said guards would not be bullied. One crossover does not win a season, but it can crystallize one. This one did, pointing straight at the playoffs. Indiana did not wait for sympathy. They built leverage without their star and earned the playoff shot with craft, grit, and receipts. Hull's moment was sweet, but the lesson is bigger. Identity survives injuries when standards hold. If you felt that surge, drop a comment for Lexie, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a breakdown. Want the next chapter on how Indiana's matchups shake out and what Clark's return could mean for the future? Click the next video and let's keep rolling.